This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 2018 NFL Coaching Carousel here on the Louie T Network. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me on this program as we're talking about the NFL Coaching Carousel. Black Monday has come and gone, and some coaches have been asked to move on. Others have held on to their jobs, and this is one of those locales where a coach was able to hold on to his job by the tiniest of margins. I'm talking about the Denver Broncos, and it was almost one and done for head coach Vance Joseph in Denver as John Elway, quote unquote, had to sleep on it and decide on Tuesday that Vance Joseph wasn't going to be fired. That being said, or on Monday, nonetheless, I didn't believe Vance Joseph needed to be fired. He got a raw deal in Denver this season. At one point, and I knew that there was danger lurking ahead and that things weren't all peaches and cream out in Denver when Elway called this team soft. And again, Vance Joseph, a defensive-minded head coach. You hear the word soft and you're a defensive guy. Those two don't mesh well together, and that usually spells trouble because anyone calling my team soft means that that's a reflection of me as a head coach, and I'm not doing enough. And so the fact that Vance Joseph, A, was called soft, or team was called soft, and B, agreed with John Elway meant he was in trouble. And this team at one point looked like they had quit. They were getting their ass whooped on a regular. And after that Dolphins debacle, I thought it was pretty safe to say and an easy assumption to make that Vance Joseph was one and done in Denver. And then they won a couple of games straight. They were able to kind of right the ship a bit. And even though they finished up the season with 2 losses, it was a team that continued to fight to the finish. And so he was able to keep his job. But I think John Elway realized that this was just as much his fault as it was Vance Joseph's fault this year. I mean, the quarterback position was a train wreck. I much like Elway, thought that Trevor Siemian could do it. So I'm not going to kill Elway for the quarterback position this year because I would have done the same thing, which is start Trevor Siemian. And I thought Siemian could do a better job of being a caretaker of the football. He can make all the throws, but it was the mistakes that he continuously made that put this team in a bind. And despite starting out the season 3-0 and playing good football, it was fool's gold at the beginning of the season. The defense was the catalyst. And despite John Elway calling this team soft, the defense was still one of the league's best. And that came without them having that elite pass rush that we were all expecting. Von Miller probably had the most unimpressive double-digit sack season of his career. He didn't get much help from the other side. I was disappointed with Shaq Barrett's performance this year. Shane Ray spent most of the year injured and didn't come back until half the year was gone, and his team's fate was pretty much sealed. So I'm looking for the pass rush to improve next year. But the defense is still good. I don't think they're as good as they once were. The secondary is getting older. Aqib Talib is getting older, but they're still a good group in that secondary. I'm looking for them to improve on that side of the football so that they can remain dominant there, because that's going to be the key for this Broncos team is can they remain dominant on defense and supplement the defense with some points from the offensive side of things. They're going to be a major player in free agency. They're drooling all over Kirk Cousins. They couldn't stop, they couldn't stop tripping over themselves with effusive praise for him after the Redskins beat the Broncos in Week 16. So I fully expect them to make a hard charge at Cousins if he is, in fact, an unrestricted free agent this offseason. We'll see what happens there. But if they can't get their hands on Cousins, they need to get some kind of veteran because they're not in a situation where they can draft a young quarterback and develop. That defense is in win-now mode, and they only have a couple of seasons left, if that, in terms of a window of opportunity to take full advantage of that defense while it's still good. So similar to the Seattle Seahawks, you want to take advantage of the defense while that window of opportunity is there, because once it shuts and closes, you're going to be a marginal football team at best. And we've seen that from the Broncos the last 2 years. The defense really good, the offense not so good, and you've got marginal performances in the last 2 years, 8-8 and now 5-11. So with that being said, or 6-10, one or the other. With that being said, in any event, this is the Broncos football team that I think made the right decision in holding on to Vance Joseph, because one and done wouldn't have been the right move when it wasn't his fault. The defense was good. He's a defensive-minded coach. The offense was a mess. You fired your offensive coordinator in the middle of the season, which reflected a problem on that side of the football. If you were looking for the defense to create miracles by forcing turnovers, and the defense did what they could. They weren't as dominant, but the offense was turning over the football at an alarming rate. You can't win in this league like that. That wasn't Vance Joseph's doing. There were times that he looked lost on the sidelines. I remember that Monday night versus Kansas City. At one point, he did look lost, but then they battled in that game and made it a football game despite 900 turnovers by Trevor Siemian and that football team on the offensive side. So I thought that keeping Vance Joseph was the right move. He's on thin ice, though. And if they struggle next year, he's definitely gone. He may not make it out of the season. He may be an in-season firing. We only had one this year, which is rare. We normally have one or two. We only had one this year. And I'm not a fan of in-season firings. They don't really do much for me. But if they start out slow next year, Vance Joseph could be on the chopping block relatively early. His leash is quite short. But I think him going into this next year as the Denver Broncos head coach was the right move. They got to get that man a quarterback. If they want to give him an opportunity to succeed, they've got to get a quarterback for Vance Joseph in Denver. And I'm putting that onus on John Elway to get that done. In any event, that's going to do it for your man Louie T and the Denver Broncos here on the Coaching Carousel. Glad that they kept and retained Vance Joseph. We'll see what he can do in year 2 in the Mile High City in terms of getting it done for this Broncos organization. I've got plenty more teams to talk about on the Coaching Carousel, so don't you go anywhere. I'm your man Louie T, signing off. I'll see you in a bit. Come back and join me here on the Louie T Network.